Hey, what is up, everybody? Tim El-Sheikh here. I hope you're doing well. Today is Monday, 28th of July. I am actually recording this in the morning of 28th of July. And you may have noticed that there's no episode. And I just wanted to tell you what's going on because I'm afraid I had a bit of a family health scare that needed my attention. And I had to basically pause everything. And but it's all good. Well, I have to say that thankfully we're out of the dark woods, as it were. Still need to have a few conversations, and probably I'll talk about that in the future. And it's not me, by the way. I'm fine, but nonetheless, it just needed my full attention, and it's something I just wanted to talk to you a little bit about because, as is the case with everything that I do with this podcast, I always try to kind of provide some sort of positive message at the end of everything that I do, everything that I say, every episode, every discussion, etc. And you know what this period kind of reminded me, as if I needed reminding, is that sometimes it's really important that we prioritize the things that we all care about. I know we live in a world where you have all the usual tech bros and the biz bros going through this productivity porn. You got to work hard. You got to do this. You got to do that. You want to be successful. Don't sleep. And, you need to make sacrifices and all that bullshit, frankly. Now, look, I'm an entrepreneur. I've been an entrepreneur now for almost 25 years. Of course, I had to make major sacrifices, etc. But the sacrifices that I chose to make were the sort of things that basically money could buy back. So for instance, like if I couldn't drive a fancy car, well, yeah, now I can. If I couldn't go on holidays and stuff like that, well, now I can. You see what I'm saying? So you've got these material things that are quite easy to, sacrifice for quite a while. And then, once you're in a position where you can basically, if you like, catch up on these things, it's doable. Whereas if you sacrifice things like relationships, you sacrifice, being with your kids as a father or mother, or not being there when your family members are dying. Money can't buy that back. If you sacrifice these things, that's it. It's gone, Or even you hear that I speak here as a biomedical scientist, but you hear a lot of people have this common narrative that, let's say, if you don't sleep, because you need to work so hard, right? Forget sleep. Sleep is for lazy people, which, by the way, is complete nonsense. But, if you don't sleep for a few days, you can then catch up. You can't, actually. Because there's research, like quite a few studies that have highlighted very, very clearly that if you don't sleep for one night, whatever damage that has caused from that one night of lack of sleep, you will need up to 3 weeks to recover from that just that one night that you've missed. So imagine if you miss multiple nights in a row. Yeah. And from the healthcare perspective, when you compromise your health, it isn't something that money can just fix. Some people think that, but the reality is you can't, right? Think of it as a scar, right? If you injured yourself or you cut yourself, there's always a scar, even though that it heals and, you can carry on living your life as normal, but there's still a scar. You understand? So sacrificing your health because you've got a deadline or because you've got a boss that is too demanding. Well, okay, you've achieved these things. What's going to happen once you've screwed up your health? Is your boss going to help you fix that health? Is the money that you've managed to make will help you fix that health? No. And I understand, look, we live in a really, really crap world today. We know money is a serious issue for a lot of people. And, I know people working multiple jobs, etc. But you just have to kind of put things into perspective sometimes. Sometimes I know it's scary not to be able to pay the bills. Look, I've been there, guys. I'm an entrepreneur. Of course, I've been there. But there are points where you have to go back to these people and say, look, I can't pay today or I can't pay this month. I've got a sick family member. What do you want me to do? And usually from experience, and that was actually, by the way, pre-pandemic, right? Pre-pandemic was kind of like everything was like kind of harsh. It's like they would say things like, oh, if you don't pay now, we take you to court, or, they start harassing you, whatever. But since the pandemic, I've noticed, and this is something that's been reported on a lot, that now a lot of banks and utility bill companies and so on, they kind of like, they try to be a little bit more understanding because they use the language like that, we understand that everybody's going through a financial difficulty right now, so talk to us and we try and help you. I mean, like, apparently the language has changed. I mean, whether that works or not, I don't know. You can comment and tell me below. But certainly, before the pandemic, I had to deal with these things. And usually, most of the time, they are very helpful. You don't get penalized. Like the system is a bit stupid. The system basically penalizes you because you didn't get paid on time by a client. This is kind of what happened to me back in the day. Clients didn't pay me on time. And I'm like, well, what the fuck am I supposed to do? And people are understanding. Okay. Now, if there are some people who are not very understanding, you know what? I literally tell them where to shove it. And sometimes you got to be careful with that. I can be a little bit confrontational. But the point I'm making is that sometimes you need to prioritize the things that matter to you the most. In fact, I'll go as far as saying that you must never sacrifice the things that money can't buy. This is really the key message I want to send you here because, I lost my parents less than 3 years ago, both of them. And, even though I'm in peace right now, but nonetheless, the wound is still fresh. So to go through what I had to go through with my family in the last few days, that was scary. I'll be very open with you about that. That was very scary. But thankfully, like I said, we're good. But the reality is life is short, man. I'm approaching 50. 50 years, half a century of life just gone. And it's way too short for you to worry about what your boss is going to say if you decide to look after your children because your children need you. Or what would your client say if you feel a little bit under the weather and you need to take a break? Frankly, if these people say things like, you know what, we don't care, do you really want to do work for these people? And again, I know money is tight, but sometimes you have to tell people to go and fuck themselves, to be honest. You've got to. Like, I want you to imagine that. And I speak from the point of view of a man, okay? I see a lot of men that say things like, I wasn't there when my children were born. And, I wasn't there when my children started school. My first son, my oldest son, my first child, rather. I've got only one son. I've got a son and a daughter. But when my son was born, he almost died. Literally, like there was a 50-50 chance of survival, basically. Now imagine, how would he feel? He's 19 now, so he's it's been a while. But imagine how he would feel if somebody told him that your father was not there when you were born and on the verge of death. How would you feel if you found out that your father or your parent was not there when you were born and you were on the verge of death? Think about that. How would my wife have felt if I left her there on her own? I'm her husband, the father of her children, and I was not there when our first ever child was born and almost died. Please tell me what money can buy anything to compensate for that. No money can compensate for this shit. And at the time, we were new. I was a new entrepreneur, like, pretty fresh out of university and stuff. We were very lucky. We made it by the time we were like 28 and stuff. So we were in a position where we could basically start thinking about having family and so on, and which is fantastic. But nonetheless, it was all new. I really didn't care what my clients would have said at the time. And thankfully, I was not in a position where somebody would have said to me something like, Tim, we don't care that your son is about to die. You would need that work to be done. Right? That didn't happen. But I'm telling you right now, if that had happened, I would have told them to go and fuck themselves to the oblivion. But some people don't do that. Some people say, you know what? I need to serve the client. I'll let my wife give birth on her own. I'll let my son potentially die while I'm not there because I needed to work on that assignment or because I need to work on that client. Is it really worth it? I want you to think about that. Because we live in a system where basically humanity doesn't matter. We see that with AI. We see how some of these companies are trying to push this whole idea that, AI comes first or tech comes first or this libertarian bullshit comes first and your life means nothing. Humans mean nothing. Well, I just want to remind you that it does, and it actually is priceless, and you should absolutely cherish it no matter what. Because before you know it, guys, you hit 50 and you'll be like, fuck. What do I do now? I mean, I'm in a very privileged position. I mean, I was very lucky. And I think, to be honest with you, what saved me, and I kind of talked about this in my previous episode about loneliness, but what saved me is sport. I learned all these things. I learned to appreciate all of these things through sport. Because in sport, especially in professional sport, you have to make some crazy sacrifices. And I have made, like, as a child, I mean, because I had to go through the whole childhood journey to become a pro basketball player. And it's like, yeah, I didn't have a childhood. I mean, I tell people a lot that I don't have childhood friends because I never had, I was too busy. I was focusing on my basketball journey. So I have no childhood friends. I did not really have a social life as a child. It was all sport, 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 and school. But sport, sport, sport. It was always about sport. That was basically my priority at the time. And hence, before I hit 20, when I was like probably 18, I realized that life is so short and life is so precious. And thankfully, I kind of realized that at that time, because then I didn't know, obviously, but a couple of years after that, due to injury, my basketball dreams died. And that was devastating. So if I didn't come to that realization that there's so much in life that really matters more than money, and matters more than everything else that people try to tell you that you should care about. I mean, I would have been, I don't know what would have happened to me when I had that devastating injury. So I just wanted to let you know that, I didn't forget about you, and notice that I'm not apologizing, because I don't see why I should apologize for not releasing an episode, because I needed to be there for my family. And neither should you. If you're ever in a situation where you needed to prioritize your health, your family, your friends, or something like that, you must never apologize, because these things matter more than anything else in life. So I hope with this episode, you might think to yourself now, you know what? I want to send a DM to my bestie that I haven't spoken to for a while. Just say, hey, go out for drinks or something. Go and hug your loved one right now. Life is short, my friends. Life is really, really short. So anyway, I've got already a few episodes that are in the pipeline. So we'll be back in action as normal, 4th of August, so next Monday. And yes, I just want to say thank you for all of your support, everybody. I know that you care. I know that many of you, especially those who donated a few bucks here and there through our donation link at ceoretort.com/support. Our members, founding members, and so on. All of you guys really are fantastic. And those who are not even members or who subscribe, if you haven't done any of that, feel free to subscribe for free, or follow me on LinkedIn and TikTok and so on. All of that lovely stuff. That really means a lot, because we are we're building a community together where you guys are kind of like my second family, as it were, online. I'm doing this because it's like my new calling, I feel. And so much so that I even mentioned this on LinkedIn, that already some of my counterparts really kind of are getting really pissed off with me. Like, I feel like the tech sector, or some elements in the tech sector, think that I'm a traitor because I'm kind of revealing all the dirt. I'm not following the line, as it were. And I've noticed that a lot of the invitations that I used to get for certain events, I don't get these invitations anymore. Yeah, I've rattled a few feathers, but you know what? So be it. Because at the end of the day, we need to get real now. We need to get real. And this is one of the messages I just want to give to you, that we've got to get real. They will tell you that your life does not matter. Your family doesn't matter. Your interests, your passions don't matter. It's all about work, work, work. Productivity, quote unquote. Yeah? But no. Please prioritize the things that money can never buy. You need to figure this out on your own, really. What is it that, if you were to lose something precious today, can money ever buy it back? And if the answer is no, then make sure you don't lose it. Just saying. Now, with that, my friends, I'll see you next week. And have a good week. Okay? Go and say hi to somebody that you haven't said hi to. Peace.